Hello, this is Scott Rapinati, and this is my Educational Technology final project in the research track, and it is investigating the retention rates in Georgia Tech's online Masters of Computer Science program, OMSCS. So the problem is that online courses have been increasing in popularity over the last 10 years because there's inherent benefits due to their flexibility, that they can provide an education to people who have a full-time job, who have a family, and they may not want to move their entire life to traditional courses, and it can be done at a fraction of the cost. The issue is with retention rates. Retention rate is defined as the percentage of students a university retains over a period of time, and they're much lower at online colleges and within online courses as well, which is one of the main detractors of online learning. So my solution was to first investigate whether this difference in retention rates in online traditional courses existed in Tech's OMSCS program, and then to try to figure out maybe why that might be occurring by looking at the student experiences through collecting data. And this was done through a series of surveys, interviews with 4 CS students at Tech. 3 were online full-time, and 1 was traditional who got moved to online because of COVID, and then scraping course reviews of these OMSCS courses. So the main question is, are lower retention rates innate within online programs because of the fact that you're not in a traditional classroom? Or is it something that the university can address problems with online learning courses, specifically looking at student motivation, their engagement, and their satisfaction with these courses? So the first thing I did was looking at the retention rates of 21 CS courses by comparing their online and traditional retention rates, and I got this data from Course Critique, and then plotted the distributions below. And the blue distribution is online courses, and then the orange is traditional. So you can see that the peak of the online is much higher compared to the traditional, showing that overall there is a higher retention or lower retention rate in online courses compared to traditional, as well as there's a higher range, a higher standard deviation. So there's more classes that have higher or lower retention rates. And I ran a p-test to determine the significance between the two, and it showed that there was a significant difference. Next, I got some data from this website called OMS Central that provides difficulty and workload ratings of all these different OMSCS classes and compared them with retention rates. So the left plot shows the traditional versus online retention rate relationship to see if courses that have high online retention rates also have traditional high retention rates. And the p-value is not significant, but it is a pretty small sample, so it looks like there's 2 courses that look like outliers that may be skewing it. But what's interesting really is looking at the fact that there's a strong relationship between online retention rates and difficulty in workloads. So students are going to more likely be dropping classes that are very difficult and have a lot of work, which makes sense. Next, I looked at a plot of bar plots from the student surveys, and this just gives a background of the types of students that completed. I had 38 respondents, and almost a majority of them were online computer science students, even though the survey was open to anybody. And most of these students actually had prior work experience and had a full-time job. So we're seeing students who came into the program having some background information and also don't have as much time on their hands because they're working 40 to 50 hours a week. So these bar charts show how much students agreed or disagreed with different levels of interaction and satisfaction in online programs. So the top left plot shows that only a small percentage, only about 40% of students actually felt that they had enough interaction with students and instructors in their online courses. But over 80% had higher levels of satisfaction when they had enough engagement. So students don't feel like they're being engaged enough in these courses, and in the courses that they actually are being engaged, they feel much better about these online courses. And that's really interesting. And obviously we see that it's actually kind of interesting is that students are feeling pretty motivated and they have enough support systems in these courses, which I thought was kind of interesting. So this is going over the overall engagement and satisfaction, like reasons why they might feel that way in these courses. And the top 2 reasons were discussion boards and feedback from TA. So having some kind of back and forth with someone is much more engaging to the students than just having quizzes. So this slide shows the results from the survey of the percentage of students who dropped the course and the reasons why. So actually, I had 23 out of 38 students who dropped the course, which is 60%. That's a really high number. But I thought was interesting was the students who actually liked the course they dropped, 13 out of 23 said yes. So even though they dropped the course, a majority of them actually did enjoy it. And we kind of see that in the second table here, which gives the reasons for dropping the course. And the top 2 reasons were they just didn't have enough time or they had a personal issue. And this is kind of interesting because connecting these to the interviews, a lot of times students felt that OMS felt secondary to them because they had a full-time job, and that a lot of times they kind of did this on the side so they didn't feel as motivated and as necessarily engaged in these classes as they might have done when they were undergraduates taking traditional courses. So that kind of connects into it's more innate rather than these classes are necessarily worse than traditional. So this slide goes over OMS Central course reviews, which was, there's some sample bias here because people who are going to complete these course reviews are either going to strongly like or dislike the course. And I went through and collected the top 5 retention or lowest retention rate OMSCS courses, such as machine learning, artificial intelligence, big data for health, advanced operating systems, and scraped these surveys from online and looked for students who did not like the course, which led me to 79 reviews from the past 2 years or so, just to give myself enough data. And I looked for parsed the reviews for keywords to try to figure out other certain ways of grouping these reviews. So the number 1 thing that students did not like about the course was lack of support from the professor or TA, because 38 students had things such as unmotivating, lack of support, TAs were absent, there was no feedback, they weren't responsive. And that's, I think, a very kind of visible complaint people have. And the second one was ambiguity in coursework. So like not having clear instructions, poorly written, confusing, unclear, all that. So some guidelines from all this. So I think one of the big points is that OMSCS makes up a very diverse group of students. You have students who come in at different levels of experience, different ages. Students might be coming in straight from undergraduate, and then some might be in their 40s. And universities are going to have to figure out ways to how to accommodate all these different students coming in. So I set up a couple different guidelines. I think one is it's very clear that students need more interaction in these online courses. Even though it may not necessarily be affecting retention rates, having students be more satisfied and feel better about learning online is definitely important. And through the reviews, through the surveys and interviews, it looks like maybe like having optional video discussions or networking events, peer reviews are all good ways to get students to interact with each other. Giving clear directions on assignments and expectations coming into the course. You have a lot of students and not many TAs, so in order to best prevent a large group of students who all have issues with the same question, you have very clear directions and assignments, so students who really need help can be addressed. So they're not feeling left out, they're not feeling that no one can help them because TAs are overwhelmed. And that's instructors and TAs should be responsive and present on different platforms like Piazza or Slack. They have to show that they care and understand the students and their difficulties in their lives, or else the students are not going to care. So in conclusion, we found that retention rates were significantly lower for online courses, but mostly that was something that was innate within those courses rather than something specifically wrong with these tech courses. And we found that ambiguity in coursework and assignments were a big reason, along with poor response time, for why students did not like OMSCS courses. And that actually a large percentage of students did drop the class, and it was more so due to lack of time and personal issues rather than lack of engagement from TAs or something with those courses. Thank you. That's all.